The inheritance check sat untouched on the dining room table like a loaded gun. My brother Ross's words still rang in my ears, each syllable another twist of the knife he'd just planted in my back. I'm Kendra, and until exactly 14 minutes ago, I thought I knew what family meant. It just makes more sense this way, sis, Ross said, flashing that trademark smile that had gotten him out of trouble since we were kids. With the twins' private school tuition and the new house renovations, stop. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Just stop talking. Mom nervously rearranged her silverware, avoiding my eyes. Dad suddenly found his meatloaf fascinating. The fancy Sunday dinner spread before us. Mom's attempt at softening the blow now seemed like a cruel joke. Honey, Mom finally spoke, her voice wavering. Your brother has a family to support. You're doing so well with your career, and you're single. So that makes it okay to give him my inheritance? The money Grandma specifically left for me? The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Ross leaned forward, all concerned big brother. Look, I talked it over with Mom and Dad. They agree it's the practical choice. You don't need it like we do. We? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. You mean like you needed that boat last summer? Or the luxury SUV you can barely afford payments on? That's not fair, Ross protested, but I saw the flash of guilt in his eyes. Kendra, Dad finally spoke up, his tone maddeningly reasonable. Your brother came to us with a solid plan, the kids' education. Stop using your children as shields, Ross. I turned to Jasmine, his wife, who hadn't said a word. Did you know about this? She startled, looking uncomfortable. Ross said, he said everyone agreed it was best. Everyone except me, you mean. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The person whose inheritance it actually is. Sit down, sweetheart, Mom pleaded. Let's discuss this like adults. Adults? I grabbed my purse. Adults don't go behind their daughter's back to steal her inheritance. Adults don't manipulate their parents into betraying their own child. Ross stood too, reaching for my arm. You're being dramatic. It's just money. I jerked away from his touch. Just money? It was Grandma's final gift to me. She wanted me to have security, independence. But you couldn't stand that, could you? That's not true. But his protest sounded hollow. You know what the worst part is? I looked around at their faces, guilty, defensive, pleading. None of you even had the decency to tell me until after the papers were signed. How long were you planning this, Ross? How many family dinners did you sit through, knowing what you were about to do? The silence was damning. Kendra, please. Mom started crying. Classic Mom, making it about her pain. I'm done. I headed for the door, then turned back. You know what Grandma told me before she died? She said, trust yourself first, because family can hurt you deepest. I didn't understand her then. I do now. Don't leave like this, Dad called after me. We can work something out. I paused at the door, touching the delicate silver bracelet on my wrist, Grandma's other gift to me. You've all worked out enough behind my back. Enjoy your dinner. And Ross? I met my brother's eyes one last time. I hope it was worth it. The drive home was a blur. My phone buzzed repeatedly, probably Mom, maybe Jasmine with guilty explanations. I ignored them all. In my apartment, I poured a glass of wine with shaking hands and called the one person I could trust. Isabel, you're not going to believe what just happened. Girl, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Remember how I told you Ross was being suspiciously nice lately? Showing up at Mom and Dad's every weekend, helping with house repairs, playing the perfect son? Yeah? He convinced them to sign over my inheritance to him. All of it. They did it without even telling me. Isabel's gasp of outrage was exactly what I needed to hear. They did not. That manipulative bastard. They did, and you know what's crazy. They all sat there acting like I was being unreasonable for being upset. Oh, hell no. What are you gonna do? I touched Grandma's bracelet again, feeling its familiar weight. I don't know yet, but I'm done being the good sister who always understands, always forgives. Ross thinks he's won? He has no idea what he just started. That's my girl, Isabel said fiercely. Whatever you need, I'm here. I took a deep breath, anger crystallizing into something harder, colder, more focused. What I need is a plan because this isn't over, not by a long shot. 3 days after the dinner disaster, I sat in Marcus and Son's jewelry appraisal, watching an elderly man examine Grandma's bracelet under a bright light. My stomach churned with every careful turn of his magnifying glass. This is quite exceptional craftsmanship, he murmured, adjusting his glasses. Art Deco period, platinum setting with high-quality diamonds. Your grandmother had excellent taste. I swallowed hard. She did. May I ask why you're selling? His kind eyes met mine. Family pieces like this usually have significant sentimental value. They do, I said, my voice tight. But sometimes you have to sacrifice something precious to build something better. My phone buzzed again, the 20th call from Mom since Sunday. I silenced it without looking. I can offer you $65,000, the appraiser said. It's above market value, but the craftsmanship and provenance justify it. The number hit me like a physical blow. Grandma had never told me its worth, and I'd never asked. She'd simply clasped it around my wrist on my 30th birthday, saying, "For when you need to remember your worth, darling." My phone lit up with a text from Isabel. "You don't have to do this. We can find another way." But I knew I did. The bracelet was my last tie to the family I thought I had, and now it would become the foundation of something new. "I'll take it," I said firmly. As the appraiser went to prepare the paperwork, the bell above the door chimed. I turned to see Jasmine walking in, looking nervous. "Kendra, wait!" She hurried over. "Your mom told me you might be here. Please don't sell it." I stood up, gripping my purse. "You don't get a say in this, Jasmine." I know," she wrung her hands. "But this bracelet, it means so much to you. Ross feels terrible about everything." "Ross feels terrible?" I laughed bitterly. "Is that why he's been calling to apologize? Oh, wait, he hasn't." "He's complicated," Jasmine defended weakly. "But the kids keep asking why Aunt Kendra isn't answering their texts." Low blow. "Don't use Emerson and Julian against me. That's Ross's move." "I'm not. I just—" She lowered her voice. "Things aren't great at home. Ross is stressed about money, even with the inheritance. Maybe if you talk to him." "Mrs. Powell?" The appraiser called from his desk. "The paperwork's ready." Jasmine grabbed my arm. "Please, Kendra, this bracelet is your connection to your grandmother." I gently removed her hand. "No, my connection to Grandma is what she taught me about standing up for myself. This?" I touched the bracelet one last time. "This is just the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "You'll see." I walked to the appraiser's desk, leaving Jasmine standing there. 20 minutes later, I stepped out into the sunshine, a cashier's check in my purse where the bracelet used to be. Jasmine was gone, probably already reporting back to Ross and my parents. My phone rang again, Isabel this time. "It's done," I said, answering. "How are you feeling?" Like I just cut off my own arm. I started walking toward the subway. "But also, free? Meet me at Carlo's? You shouldn't be alone right now." At our favorite coffee shop, Isabel was already waiting with my usual order and her laptop open. "Okay," she said as I sat down. "I've been researching. With your business background and my nonprofit experience, we could make this work. The market for women's financial education is huge, especially for those recovering from financial abuse." I took a sip of coffee, letting her words sink in. You really think we can do this? Girl, you just sold your most precious possession to help other women avoid what happened to you. We're already doing this. My phone buzzed with a text from Ross. Mom's crying. Hope you're happy. I showed it to Isabel, who rolled her eyes. Classic manipulation. You know that's not on you, right? I know. I pulled out my laptop. Let's focus on something that matters. Show me what you found about starting a nonprofit. As Isabel walked me through her research, I felt something shift inside me. The ache of losing Grandma's bracelet was still there, but now it was fuel for something bigger. First thing we need is a name, Isabel said, poised to type. I thought about Grandma's words about remembering my worth, about all the women out there facing their own Rosses, their own betrayals. Worth rising, I said firmly, because that's what we're going to help women do. Isabel grinned. Perfect. Now, let's make your brother regret ever messing with you. For the first time in days, I smiled. The bracelet might be gone, but its power was just beginning to show. And that's how Worth Rising was born, I concluded, looking out at the sea of faces in our first workshop. 6 months of sleepless nights, endless paperwork, and determination had led to this moment. 20 women sat before me, each with their own story of financial betrayal or manipulation. Some nodded in recognition as I shared my experience. Others wiped away tears. But this isn't about my story, I continued, gesturing to the workbooks Isabel was distributing. It's about making sure your story has a different ending. A woman in the front row raised her hand. What if it's too late? My ex-husband already cleaned out our accounts. It's never too late, Maria. I walked closer to her. That's why we're partnering with Legal Aid Services. Isabel, can you share the resource packet? As Isabel handled the practical details, my phone vibrated, a text from Mom. Your father's birthday dinner is Sunday. Please come. We miss you. I switched off the screen. 6 months of minimal contact had been harder than I'd expected, but necessary. Kendra? Another participant spoke up. How did you deal with the anger? I'm so mad at myself for being stupid. Stop right there, I interrupted firmly. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. The people who abuse that trust, they're the ones who should feel stupid. After the workshop, Isabel and I were packing up when a young woman approached us. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. I'm Sarah, she said quietly. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. My boyfriend, he convinced me to put everything in his name. Said it was for tax purposes. Isabel and I exchanged glances. This was exactly why we'd started Worth Rising. Sit down, Sarah, I said, pulling out a chair. Let's talk about your options. 3 hours later, Sarah had a place at our partner's shelter, an appointment with our legal team, and a spark of hope in her eyes that hadn't been there before. That's number 12, Isabel said as we watched Sarah leave. 12 women we've helped get back on their feet. Not enough, I replied, checking my email, but it's a start. A new message popped up from a local news station. They wanted to do a feature on Worth Rising. Holy shit, Isabel breathed, reading over my shoulder. This could be huge for us. It could help us reach more women, I agreed, already typing a response. The next morning, I was adjusting my blazer in the studio's green room when my phone lit up with Ross's number. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. What do you want, Ross? Just saw the promo for your TV interview, he said, his voice tight. Real subtle, sis, airing our family drama on local news. Interesting that you assume it's about you, I replied coolly. This is about helping women protect themselves from financial abuse. Ring any bells? You're unbelievable, he snapped. Mom's a mess. Dad barely talks anymore, and you're turning it into some kind of crusade? Ms. Powell? The producer poked her head in. We're ready for you. I have to go, I told Ross. By the way, how are those private school payments working out? I hung up before he could respond. The interview went better than I dared hope. The reporter was genuinely interested in our mission, asking thoughtful questions about financial literacy and empowerment. What inspired you to start Worth Rising? She asked. Sometimes, I said, looking directly into the camera, the worst betrayals can lead to the best revelations. Every woman deserves to know her worth isn't determined by anyone else's actions. By that evening, our website had crashed from too many visitors. Isabel called in a panic. We've got over 300 emails. Women asking for help, offering to volunteer, wanting to donate. I sat down hard on my couch. How many can we help? With this response, we'll need to expand, maybe open satellite offices. She paused. Kendra, we're going to need more funding. I know someone who owes me an inheritance, I said dryly. Girl, no, Isabel laughed. Think bigger. I've got a meeting set up with the Women's Foundation tomorrow. They're interested in partnering. My doorbell rang. Outside stood Jasmine, looking uncomfortable. I saw your interview, she said before I could speak. I need to talk to you about Ross. The look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. Karma was finally making its first appearance. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Tell me everything. As Jasmine walked past me, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the hallway mirror. No bracelet on my wrist anymore, but something stronger had taken its place. Purpose. Jasmine's hands shook as she clutched her coffee mug. The credit card companies keep calling. Ross changed our phone numbers twice, but they keep finding us. I sat across from her in my living room, processing her words. How bad is it? Bad. She pulled out a crumpled envelope from her purse. The private school sent this yesterday. They're threatening to remove the kids if we miss another payment. What happened to the inheritance money? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Jasmine's laugh was hollow. Gone. All of it. Ross said he was investing in some amazing opportunity. Something about cryptocurrency and real estate. Of course he did. I remembered Ross's get-rich-quick schemes from college. Some things never changed. That's not even the worst part. Jasmine lowered her voice, though we were alone. I found paperwork in his office. He took out a second mortgage on the house without telling me, used my signature. My head snapped up. He forged your signature? He said it was just temporary, that the investment would pay off any day now. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Emerson needs braces. Julian's having anxiety attacks about changing schools. And I can't even buy groceries without checking our balance 3 times. My phone buzzed. Isabel texting about tomorrow's Worth Rising workshop. The irony wasn't lost on me. Why didn't you come to me sooner? I asked softly. Ross said you were just being spiteful with your charity work, that you were trying to embarrass him. She wiped her eyes. But then I saw your interview about women protecting themselves. I realized I was becoming exactly what you were warning about. A key rattled in my front door, Isabel using her emergency key. She burst in, waving her tablet. Kendra, you need to see this. The investment forum is blowing up about... She stopped short, seeing Jasmine. Oh, hey. It's okay, I said. She was just telling me about Ross's brilliant investment plans. Isabel's eyes widened. You mean the Royal Palm development scam? That's what I came to show you. The whole thing just collapsed. FBI's involved and everything. Jasmine went pale. What? I took the tablet, scanning the headlines. Sure enough, Royal Palm Development was exposed as a massive Ponzi scheme. Investors were losing millions. How much did he put in? I asked Jasmine. All of it, she whispered. The inheritance, our savings, the mortgage money. He said it was guaranteed returns. My phone rang, Ross's number. I showed the screen to Jasmine. Don't tell him I'm here, she pleaded. He doesn't know I found the papers. I answered on speaker. Hello, brother. Kendra. His voice was frantic. I need your help. Something's happened with an investment, but it's just temporary. If you could loan me some money, like you loaned me my inheritance. Damn it, this isn't a joke, he was shouting now. The kids' school, the house payments. I need 80,000 by Friday. Isabel made a choking sound. Jasmine covered her mouth. That's funny, I said calmly. Last time we talked, you said I was being dramatic about just money. What changed? Please, his voice cracked. I'm begging you, help me fix this. Fix what, Ross? The investment scam? The forged documents? The lies to your wife? Silence. Then, Jasmine's with you, isn't she? Goodbye, Ross. Wait. I hung up. Jasmine was shaking. He'll lose everything, she said. We'll lose everything. No, I corrected her. He lost everything. You still have choices. Isabel sat down beside her. Worth Rising has resources, legal aid, financial advisors, support groups. We can help you protect yourself and the kids. Ross will never forgive me. Ross forged your signature and gambled away your children's future, I reminded her. His forgiveness isn't the priority here. My phone started ringing again, Mom this time. Ross just called us, she said when I answered. He's crying, saying you're turning Jasmine against him. What are you doing? What am I doing? I repeated incredulously. Ask your perfect son what he's done with the inheritance you helped him steal. Check the news about Royal Palm Development. What are you talking about? Better yet, ask him about forging his wife's signature. I'm sure that'll make for great Sunday dinner conversation. I hung up, turning to Jasmine. You have two choices. Keep hiding his secrets and go down with him, or let me help you protect yourself and the kids. She stared at her wedding ring for a long moment. Then she looked up, something steely entering her gaze. Where do we start? Isabel pulled out her laptop. First, we document everything. Then, we call our lawyer. As they began working, my phone lit up with a text from Ross. You'll regret this. I smiled grimly. No, brother, you will. The children's playground at Riverside Park felt like neutral territory. I watched Emerson push Julian on the swings, while Jasmine and I sat on a nearby bench, far enough from other parents to talk privately. He cleaned out the kids' college accounts, Jasmine said, her voice barely audible over the playground noise. The lawyer found the transfers yesterday. Before or after the Royal Palm collapse? Before. He was trying to chase his losses. She twisted her wedding ring, still wearing it, but on her right hand now. The FBI interviewed him yesterday. A delighted shriek from Julian drew our attention. Higher, Emmy! Push me higher! At least they're resilient, I said, watching my niece and nephew play. How are they handling the move? Better than expected. The apartment's small, but they love being closer to their school friends. Jasmine managed a weak smile. The school board approved the financial aid package. They can stay through the end of the year. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. Third time today. I declined it. Your parents keep asking about you, Jasmine said. They're worried. They're worried about Ross, I corrected. They always are. Aunt Kendra. Emerson ran over, cheeks flushed. Can you push me now? Julian's too little to do it right. Am not, Julian protested, jumping off his swing. I followed Emerson to the swings, grateful for the interruption. As I pushed her, my phone buzzed again. A text from Isabel. Ross just showed up at the Worth Rising office, looking for you. Everything okay? Jasmine called from the bench, noticing my expression. Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the playground noise. Daddy! Julian shouted, running toward Ross, who stood at the park entrance looking disheveled in a wrinkled suit. "Hey, buddy." Ross caught Julian in a hug, but his eyes were fixed on me. "Emmy, come here. I missed you guys." Emerson jumped off the swing midair, making my heart lurch. "Daddy, are you coming home?" Jasmine stood up, tension visible in every line of her body. "Ross, this isn't the time." "When is the time, Jazz?" His voice cracked. "You won't answer my calls. You took the kids." "You took everything else," she shot back. "I can fix this," he insisted, still holding Julian. "I have a new opportunity." "Stop." I stepped between them. "Not here, not in front of the kids." "Stay out of this, Kendra. You've done enough damage." "Damage?" I laughed incredulously. "That's rich coming from you." "Mommy?" Julian's lower lip trembled. "Why is everyone fighting?" Jasmine moved quickly, gathering both kids. "Let's go get ice cream, okay? Daddy and Aunt Kendra need to talk." Once they were out of earshot, Ross rounded on me. "Happy now? You've turned my whole family against me." "You did that yourself." I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Ross?" "I want my life back, the life you're destroying with your revenge charity." "Worth Rising helps women protect themselves from men like you." "Men like me?" He ran his hands through his hair, wild-eyed. "I'm your brother. I made a mistake, okay? I admit it. But this, getting Jasmine to leave, threatening me with lawyers, you forged her signature, stole your children's college funds. I was going to pay it back. Everything was going to work out if you hadn't turned her against me." A mother nearby gathered her children, hurrying away from our increasingly heated exchange. "The FBI doesn't investigate mistakes, Ross. Neither does the SEC." His face crumpled. "I need help, Kendra. Real help. Not your public humiliation campaign." "Funny how you only admit that after you've lost everything." "Please." He grabbed my arm. "You're my sister. Despite everything, that has to count for something." I looked at his desperate face, remembering the brother who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd threatened my first boyfriend, who'd cried at our grandmother's funeral. "It does count for something," I said quietly, removing his hand. "That's why I'm not pressing charges for showing up at my office. But if you ever come near Worth Rising again, that will change." "So, that's it? You're choosing your revenge over family?" "No, Ross. I'm choosing justice over enabling. There's a difference." I started walking away, then turned back. "You know what the saddest part is? If you just asked for help in the first place, instead of stealing and lying, I would have given it freely." "Kendra, wait." "Goodbye, Ross. Get a good lawyer. You're gonna need one." As I walked toward the ice cream shop where Jasmine and the kids waited, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "How could you do this to your brother?" I typed back, "How could you do this to your daughter?" Then I blocked both their numbers, wiped my eyes, and put on a smile for my niece and nephew. They'd seen enough family drama for one day. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. But sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. The total damages amount to approximately $1.2 million, the FBI agent said, sliding documents across my office desk. "Your brother's involvement in the Royal Palm scheme was substantial." I stared at the numbers, each digit hammering home the scale of Ross's deception. Beside me, Isabel took rapid notes while our lawyer, Monica, studied the paperwork. "And you're certain about the forged documents?" Monica asked. "Multiple counts," the agent confirmed. "We've already identified 8 separate instances of signature forgery, including his wife's and 2 business partners." My phone lit up with a text from Jasmine. "Ross's lawyer called. He wants to make a deal." "Ms. Powell," the agent leaned forward, "your organization's work with financial fraud victims has been invaluable to our investigation. We'd like to discuss the possibility of a formal partnership with Worth Rising." Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Kendra, we need to talk. His eyes darted to the agent's badge. Alone. Mr. Powell, we're in a meeting. Monica started, but I held up my hand. It's okay. I stood up. Let's take this outside. In the hallway, Dad paced like a caged animal. Your mother's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? Anxiety attack. The doctor says it's stress-related. He stopped pacing to face me. This has to stop, Kendra. Your vendetta is destroying our family. My vendetta? I kept my voice low, aware of the thin walls. Ross committed federal crimes, Dad. He stole from his own children. He made mistakes. No, a mistake is bouncing a check. This was calculated fraud. He's facing prison time. Dad's voice cracked. Your brother could go to jail because of you. Because of me? I laughed bitterly. I didn't force him to join a Ponzi scheme. I didn't make him forge signatures or steal his kids' college funds. But you're the one helping the FBI build their case. I'm helping Jasmine protect herself and her children. Remember them, your grandchildren. Dad deflated slightly. Of course I remember, but there has to be another way. If we all just sit down together, like we did when Ross convinced you to give him my inheritance. The old pain surfaced. How did that family meeting work out? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Dad. But at least now Ross is facing consequences for his actions, maybe for the first time in his life. My phone buzzed. Isabel texting that the FBI agent needed to leave soon. Go see Mom, I said softly. Tell her I'm sorry she's hurting, but I won't stop doing what's right just because it's hard. You sound just like your grandmother. Dad's voice was tired. Good. She was the only one who taught me to stand up for myself. Back in my office, the FBI agent was gathering his papers. One more thing, Miss Powell. Mr. Ross's lawyer has approached us about a plea deal. They're suggesting your testimony could influence the terms. I felt the weight of the moment. Ross's fate, partially in my hands. Exactly what I'd wanted, wasn't it? I'll need to think about it, I said carefully. After everyone left, Isabel brought in coffee. You okay? No. I showed her Dad's latest text. Your mother's asking for you. Go, Isabel said firmly. I'll handle things here. The hospital corridor felt endless. Outside Mom's room, I paused, hearing voices inside. She's just angry, Mom, Ross was saying. Once she calms down, don't. Mom's voice was weak but clear. Don't make excuses, not anymore. I pushed the door open. Ross jumped up from his chair, face pale. Mom looked small in the hospital bed. Kendra, she whispered, you came. Ross moved toward the door. I'll give you two. Stay. Mom's command stopped him. Both of you sit down, please. We sat on opposite sides of her bed, like children called to account. I failed you both, Mom said quietly. Ross, we enabled your worst impulses, made excuses, looked the other way. And Kendra, her eyes filled with tears, we betrayed you, chose the easier path over the right one. Mom, don't, Ross started. I'm not finished. She took a shaky breath. Kendra, what you're doing with Worth Rising, your grandmother would be so proud. The tears I'd been holding back spilled over. Ross, Mom turned to him. You need to face what you've done. Really face it. No more schemes. No more excuses. I don't know how, he whispered. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw past the anger for the first time in months. I might have an idea, I said slowly, but you won't like it. Ross met my eyes, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of the brother I used to know. I'm listening, he said. The Worth Rising annual gala buzzed with energy. 300 guests filled the hotel ballroom, each representing another step in our mission. Isabel was working the crowd like a pro, while I stood backstage, reviewing my speech one last time. 5 minutes, the event coordinator whispered. My phone lit up with a text from Jasmine. We're here. Kids are excited to see you. Ready for this? Isabel appeared beside me, adjusting my microphone. The press is here, major donors, even that senator who's been pushing for financial fraud reform. Is he here? I asked, front row, looking appropriately ashamed. She squeezed my hand. It's not too late to change your mind. Yes, it is. The lights dimmed and I heard the introduction begin. Taking a deep breath, I walked onto the stage. Good evening, I began, facing the sea of faces. 1 year ago, Worth Rising started with a bracelet and a betrayal. I told our story, the real story, holding nothing back. The inheritance, the theft, the transformation of pain into purpose. In the front row, I saw Mom dabbing her eyes while Dad held her hand. But tonight isn't about that story, I continued. It's about the 347 women we've helped this year, about the partnerships we've built, the lives we've changed, and about one more story that needs to be told. I paused, my heart hammering. I'd like to introduce someone. My brother, Ross. The audience murmured as Ross walked onto the stage. He looked different, humbler somehow, in his plain suit and tie. Hello, he said into the microphone, his voice shaking slightly. I'm the betrayal Kendra mentioned. The room went silent. I stole from my sister, manipulated my parents, forged documents, lost everything, including my family's trust. He swallowed hard. And now, as part of my plea agreement and my personal commitment to make amends, I'm here to tell you exactly how I did it. For the next 15 minutes, Ross laid bare every manipulation, every lie, every tactic he'd used. The audience sat riveted as he explained how he'd convinced our parents, how he'd hidden his tracks, how he'd justified each step. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he concluded. I'm here because every person who might be tempted to do what I did needs to see the cost, and every person who might be victimized needs to know the warning signs. In the audience, I saw Jasmine wipe away tears while holding Emerson and Julian close. Worth Rising isn't just about helping victims. I stepped forward. It's about prevention, education, and sometimes redemption. Ross turned to me. Kendra agreed to testify for a lighter sentence if I committed to working with Worth Rising's prevention program, speaking at events, helping identify fraud patterns, teaching others to recognize the manipulation I used. Because sometimes, I added, the best person to prevent a crime is someone who's faced the consequences of committing it. The applause was thunderous. As we left the stage, Ross grabbed my arm. Thank you, he whispered. I know I don't deserve. You're right, you don't. I met his eyes. But this isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to be better. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. The senator promised support for our new legislation. Donors wrote checks that would fund our expansion plans. Later, as the crowd thinned, I found myself at a quiet table with my family. Julian was asleep in Dad's lap while Emerson showed Mom her latest art project. 3 years, Jasmine said quietly. That's what the plea deal offers. With community service through Worth Rising after release, I added. If he stays clean, keeps his commitments. I will, Ross said firmly. I know words mean nothing now, but I'm going to prove it. To all of you. Actions, not words, Mom said, her voice stronger than it had been in months. Speaking of actions, Isabel interrupted, approaching with a small box. This just arrived from Marcus and Sons. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside lay Grandma's bracelet. How? I whispered. The original buyer returned it, Isabel explained. Said after seeing our work, he wanted it back where it belonged. Put it on, Emerson urged. As I fastened the bracelet, I caught Ross watching with tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I know." I touched the familiar silver links. But look what came from it. Around us, the Worth Rising logo glowed on screens displaying our success stories. 347 women, and counting. Sometimes the worst betrayals do lead to the best revelations. But the real power isn't in the revenge. It's in what you build from the ashes. The prison visiting room buzzed with quiet conversations. I sat across from Ross, watching him read the latest Worth Rising quarterly report. 812 women helped, he said, shaking his head in amazement. And the new legislation passed? Unanimously. I tapped the page. The Powell Amendment, they're calling it, makes financial fraud within families a specific offense with heavier penalties. Fitting. He smiled wryly. How's the family? Emerson made honor roll again. Julian's anxiety is better. The therapy's really helping. And Jasmine, I hesitated. She's seeing someone. Ross nodded slowly. Good. She deserves to be happy. You've changed, I observed. Prison has a way of stripping away the bullshit. He closed the report. The men in my financial literacy class, they remind me of who I used to be. All excuses and justifications. How many are in the program now? 23. They come in thinking they're the victims, leave understanding the real damage they caused. He leaned forward. That's why I wanted to see you today. I have a proposal. I raised an eyebrow. Last time you said that? I know, I know. He laughed, a real laugh, something I hadn't heard in ages. But this is different. The warden thinks Worth Rising's prison program could work in other facilities. She wants to expand it. We're already stretched thin. Let me run it. His eyes were earnest. Once I'm out. I know these men, Kendra. I know their mindset, their excuses. I can reach them. I studied him carefully. You're serious about this. Dead serious. No salary, no benefits. Just the chance to prevent others from making my mistakes. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Dinner at 6. Bringing the kids. Don't be late. Speaking of mistakes, Ross nodded at my phone. How are things with Mom and Dad? Better. Different. I showed him the text. We're all learning new ways to be family. Without the manipulation and enabling? Exactly, I smiled. Mom's actually volunteering at our crisis hotline now. Says it helps her understand where she went wrong with us. And Dad? Still quiet but present. Really present, not just physically there. I checked the time. I should go. Family dinner. Wait. Ross pulled out an envelope. Could you give this to Jasmine? It's not about getting her back or anything. Just some things I need to say. I took the envelope, remembering another family dinner that felt like a lifetime ago. Your proposal? I said, standing. Let me talk to Isabel and the board. No promises, but that's all I'm asking. He stood too. Hey, Kendra, remember when we were kids and I promised to always protect you? Right before you pushed me into the pool? He laughed again. Yeah, I failed at that promise, spectacularly. But watching you now, you never needed my protection. You needed me to get out of your way so you could soar. The guard called time. As I gathered my things, Ross touched my arm. The bracelet, he said. Grandma would be proud of how you used it. At home, I changed for dinner, catching sight of the bracelet in my mirror. Its silver surface had tiny scratches now, battle scars from a year of work, meetings, and healing. My phone rang. Isabel. You'll never believe this, she said without preamble. Remember Sarah, our first success story? Of course. What about her? She just donated $50,000 to Worth Rising, said she sold her tech startup and wanted to give back. I sat down, remembering Sarah trembling in our workshop, sleeping in her car. That's not all, Isabel continued. She wants to join the board, says she has ideas for expanding our tech training program. The doorbell rang, Mom and Dad, early as usual, with Emerson and Julian's voices carrying through the door. Got to go, I told Isabel. Family dinner. The healthy kind this time? Getting there. I opened the door to hugs and chatter, the smell of Mom's lasagna, Dad's quiet smile. As we settled around my dining table, the same one where Ross had announced his betrayal, I touched my bracelet. Some people say living well is the best revenge. They're wrong. The best revenge is building something so powerful, so meaningful, that the original wound becomes just another building block in your foundation. Aunt Kendra? Julian tugged my sleeve. Tell us the bracelet story again? I smiled, looking around at my rebuilt family. Well, it starts with a betrayal, but that's not where it ends. Because sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one.